It's been a while since my last update on the Ratchet Clank multiplayer project, and I wanted to talk about the current status and what's next and how it's been going. So first of all, this is a mod for the PlayStation 3 HD remake of the original Ratchet Clank game. The mod works on console and it works on emulator. It has a scriptable server where you can write your own custom game modes, and those game modes could be like tag, a racing mode, hide and seek, very simple stuff for the time being. Last time I made an update on the multiplayer project, I showed how players can see each other, and I showed how you can create scripted game modes, and I also showed stuff not working, like weapons not syncing, and it's being otherwise very bare bones. So first of all, we got synced mobys. So mobys is what Insomniac called game objects at the time. So a game object is anything dynamic, like enemies, elevators, ships, projectiles are mobys, a bunch of stuff are mobys. What's not mobys are stuff like geometry. Level geometry is not a moby, but if it can move, it's either a moby or it's a particle, but most likely it's a moby. A synced moby basically is the client telling the server, hey, I've got this moby and I would like to sync this with you, server. Could you please tell the other clients that I have this moby? And then the client fully controls how that moby behaves. The server doesn't do anything. It doesn't make any decisions about position. It doesn't make any decisions about animations. And it lets us have native game behavior with basically no effort. We can also spawn projectiles from weapons. Devastator ammo and the Rhino ammo, all that now spawns in the game. You can at least see the projectiles. And related to synced mobys, we also got gear mobys, basically. It lets us attach gear to Ratchet. Well, not quite like that. This is that's a bug. That's a little bit of a bug. But it lets us attach Clank to Ratchet's back, and it lets us have the helmet on Ratchet. And so now it looks much more like Ratchet and Clank. So it's not just Ratchet and Ratchet and Ratchet. It's Ratchet and Clank and Ratchet and Clank and Ratchet and Clank. And yeah, so all these movies, they sync their animations, so that looks correct. All the backpack, the Clank's gear, that all changes as it's supposed to. This was surprisingly difficult to make work properly, because Clank isn't just one moby. Clank is made up of multiple mobys depending on which pack you have. I think the heli pack is like 3 mobys, and so you got Clank attached to Ratchet's back, and you got the heli pack, like his arms, they're connected to Clank. So not only do you have to make sure you connect Clank to Ratchet's back, but you have to make sure that you can connect Clank's arms to Clank. This was surprisingly difficult to do because there was a race condition where you spawn in, where the game wants to spawn in Clank, and it has to register that with the server, and the server has to say, okay, I got you, dude. You now have Clank in the server. So the client has to wait for that to come back, and then it can tell the server to spawn in the other stuff, like the thruster pack wings, right? Because that's an attachment to Clank that's not part of Clank himself. Since they have to attach all together, that was a challenge. The way that we attach mobys are using the game's bone system itself. So each moby basically has bones associated with them. We can always get the position and the rotation and the transformation of a bone. And that lets us always keep an object attached, even though there are like animations happening and stuff like that. This makes feet not look right. If we try to attach boots to the feet, it doesn't look quite right, because the feet, they kind of stick out. Like Ratchet's feet, they will bend as he jumps and does stuff. We would need to also know how to bend the feet. But that's not a part of the bone data that we get, and so we need to do more reverse engineering if we want to figure out how to bend the boots to fit his feet. There must be a way to do it because the game is doing it, but I don't know how to do it, and I'd rather spend time on other stuff. So for now, boots don't spawn in because They do kind of look weird. Also, we can't do weapons yet due to other technical reasons. So we can have 2 Devastators spawned in at the same time, but we can't have, for example, the Devastator and the Rhino spawned in at the same time. This is probably due to an optimization that Insomniac made when they made the game for PlayStation 2. There's something the game does that makes us crash whenever we try to spawn in different weapons at the same time. Even more moby stuff. I made something that I call hybrid mobies. They're different from synced mobies. Where synced mobies are fully client controlled, hybrid mobies are typically spawned in by the game itself. So they're mobies that exist in the level from the beginning. They might be Helga, or they might be an enemy, or they might be elevators or ships. Any kind of moby that's already spawned in a level where the game by default controls that moby. But as a hybrid moby on the server, we can take control over select parts of the moby. So we can choose to take control over the position of a moby, we can take control over the animations it plays, or other data parts of a moby that we want to control, like its health. So we can control how much health the moby has. This means that we can take mobies that exist in a level and we can sync only what we need to sync. And so this can control native behavior that the game already expects the moby to do, and we can nudge a moby in some parts or even fully control it. It also lets us do stuff like sync button presses. So if one player steps on a button somewhere and opens a door, that actually opens the doors on every client. Or we could do like on Pokitaru, I've made all of the fish hybrid mobies so that when one player kills them, it's killed on all the other clients. Or even the moving infobot on Orxon, the Hoven infobot on Orxon that moves around. Whenever one player gets to a position where it will move, it starts moving on all the other clients as well. And also the bridges on Eudora. Whenever one player starts to open one of the bridges with the wrench, it also starts opening on all the other clients. I also tried to sync the elevators, but it didn't go well. And I'm not quite sure what's happening here. But for some reason, if the elevator starts moving and Ratchet's not on it, when he gets on it, there's some kind of speed thing. The motivation for all these changes have been a co-op mode. I've gotten fairly far in all the technical things that need implementing before we can get to co-op mode. I've started syncing a bunch of moby stuff already. Items, current bolts, gold bolts, skill points, all that's very easily syncable. Moving forward for the co-op mode, we still need to sync a bunch of progress stuff. We need to make more hybrid mobies that work throughout the levels. Stuff like the Rilgar races aren't synced and probably won't be synced for a while. There's boss fights probably will need to be synced in some kind of way. We can use hybrid mobies for that, but it's difficult to know how stuff like the last boss fight, the Drek, how that will go. So a bunch of stuff still needs to be figured out. It's not ready for a full playthrough. It's definitely moving along. It's getting somewhere. Yeah, and there's a bunch of other things that I haven't thought of yet with co-op mode. I've been focusing a lot on these hybrid mobies, syncing progress, and the technical groundwork that needs to be done for this to work. And there's a bunch of stuff that probably won't ever work properly, and that's syncing enemies across screens. It's difficult to adapt a single player game such that all the components of everything will sync properly on all the screens. And I think making enemies work together is going to be very difficult, and I think it's going to require a lot of manual work on every single enemy type in the game. If you want to help develop the mod, I'd love for you to check out the Discord. You could check out the GitHub first if you want to look at the progress. Other than that, I want to thank the other contributors of the project. Panad has been contributing some cool changes, and Trippy made this great logo. Thanks to everyone who's contributed, and I hope you want to contribute too. jumps and does stuff.